Greetings. It's good to be with you in this way. I know you're going to have a good time in the Vision Conference with Bob and this young team of mentorees. We live at a time of the history of the church where there has never been more Christians in the world, there's never been more churches in the world, and there's never been more large megachurches in the world than there is today. The problem is, with the spread of Christianity and all these Christians and all these churches, our nations are still terribly broken. You witness this in your own nation of Mexico, a great nation with an incredible people, and yet it's so broken. The mission of the Disciple Nations Alliance is to help the church rise to her full potential as God's principal agent for restoring, healing, and blessing broken nations. And the church in Mexico is ready to become the church that God intends for her to be. The church in Mexico is ready to become the agent that God will use to bring healing and transformation to your great country. Bob Moffat and I have visited Mexico many times, and over the years there's been a growing interest in the message of the Disciple Nations Alliance. And now, after many years, God has raised up a national leadership team. We have been praying for this for years, and now that team is in existence, beginning to develop a strategy and to give structure for the work of the DNA in Mexico. Now there's a need for Spanish-speaking trainers who can respond to the requests of churches and denominations in Mexico and in the region. For the last 7 months, I've had the privilege of working with a team of young Mexican pastors and professionals who have a heart to take these messages to your nation. They've been reading, they've been facilitating groups of others who are studying together, talking together about the ideas that you'll be hearing this week. And they're going to be teaching for the first time. So let me encourage you to give them your feedback and give them your encouragement. Mexico and Mexico City has played a vital part in my own life. When I was a 19-year-old college student, I had the privilege of traveling to Mexico City with a group of young university students. There are 11 of us in all, and we boarded a train in Mexicali and traveled for 3 nights and 2 days to Mexico City. I was a young Southern California boy. I'd seen pictures of poverty, but I had never in my life been confronted with poverty. And I remember as the train went further and further south, I saw greater and greater poverty. And when the train pulled into Mexico City, it passed by the outskirts of a favela, a slum. And I saw people living in houses made out of trash, and I saw children playing in piles of rubble. And as a 19-year-old university student, God broke my heart. I'd never seen anything like this before. And I knew at that moment that when I died, I wanted to have less poverty in the world than there was at that moment. We spent 6 weeks living in an orphanage in Mexico City, playing with the children, eating with them. It was a wonderful experience. And this time in Mexico City as a 19-year-old university student dramatically changed the direction of my life. So I am indebted to your nation and to this city for how God used it in impacting my life. Mexico is a nation that has been blessed by God. You have wonderful people, colorful culture, and you are abundantly blessed with natural resources. So why does Mexico struggle with poverty? I think it's because they lack a biblical worldview. If you think of Genesis chapter 12, in this passage, God raises up Abraham. And he calls him to leave the city and place of his youth, of his family. He's called the leaver of the Chaldees. And God tells him to leave. And when Abraham says, "But where am I going?" God says, "I'll show you." And we find in Genesis 12, verses 1 through 4, that God led Abraham to leave all that was familiar, to leave his town behind, his fatalistic culture behind, and follow the voice of the creator of the universe to wherever this God would lead. And in Genesis chapter 12, verse 4, these very simple words, "And Abraham left." And in these few words, the whole of not only Abraham's life was changed, but the whole of human history was changed. Because Abraham left the small gods of his fatalistic culture and followed the living God into a world that for Abraham was an unknown world. Thomas Cahill, the historian, wrote a profound book called The Gift of the Jews. And in this book, he explains what happened when Abraham left. And he says this: "The Jews gave us a whole new vocabulary, a whole new temple of the Spirit, an inner landscape of ideas and feelings that had never been known before. Because of their unique belief, monotheism, the Jews were able to give us the great whole, a unified universe that makes sense, and that because of its evident superiority as a worldview, completely overwhelms the warring and contradictory phenomenon of polytheism. They gave us the conscience of the West." When Abraham followed the voice of God into the wilderness, all of history changed. Cahill continues, "The Jews gave us the outside and the inside, our outlook and our inner life. We can hardly get up in the morning or cross the street without being Jewish. We dream Jewish dreams and hope Jewish hopes. Most of our words, most of our best words, in fact, new, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, person, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, justice, are the gifts of the Jews." What Cahill is saying is that the Jews gave human beings a whole new way of seeing reality and a whole new vocabulary. The Jews gave the world a biblical worldview. It is this perspective, the perspective of a biblical worldview, that will allow Mexico to flourish and become all that God intends for it to be. Have a great time together this week. Enjoy your time with Bob and this group of young trainers. Encourage them, enjoy them, and may God bless this Vision Conference.